everyone. As Aaron said, thank you guys for joining. Really appreciate it. And see, we've got people from all over, not only the US, but all over the world. It's really cool. It's really cool to see, I think. Yeah, we're excited to tell you a little bit more about the program today. My name is Matt. I'm the Director of Marketing and Admissions here at New. I'm joined by Aaron, as you already saw, you heard from, and another one of our colleagues, Jared. And so we're going to be doing our best to, as Aaron said, answering in the Q&A. So we'll be some doing it live, some will be typing it. We're going to try to get a whole lot of information to you guys here over the next, I think we're scheduled for an hour, so we'll be good to go at least till then. So let me share screen. I'm going to go through a presentation here. I'm going to try to do it quickly, like 10, 15 minutes. And then it'll be a lot of time to focus in on the Q&A. So if you bear with me, hopefully it won't be, it'll be informative and not anything too boring. And then we'll dive into the fun part. All right, so we're new apprenticeship. So really what we do, I think, is less important than why we do it. And, so you've made it this far, right? We're an apprenticeship program. So we are a U.S. Department of Labor registered apprenticeship program, which I won't get into too much of the details of it, but really just means that we have to go through a really serious vetting process, have do significant reporting, right? All the things that you would expect a program for the United States Department of Labor to kind of put their stamp on. But we're focused in on tech roles. And so at any given time, we try to have 2 to 4 different apprenticeship occupations in the technology available. And the cool part about it and what makes apprenticeship so different and valuable is that it's not just a job, right, where you're getting the hands-on experience, which is invaluable. It's not just learning where you're getting certifications and building up technical skills. It's kind of the combination of both of them. In addition to, developing leadership skills through coaching, right? Those are kind of the 3 big elements for our program and why we think why it's been so successful and why we're so excited to really talk about it. So that's what we do, but the why to me is the most important part. And I know it's the one as I look at the team here that's joining, it's what everyone's so passionate about, is because hiring, especially for tech, it doesn't work. There was an artificial constraint that was decided upon decades ago that was used to filter out too many resumes, and for some reason it's just stuck. And a 4-year degree, not knocking it, right? Something that we will try to, throughout the program, help people eventually in their careers attain, but that's not what successful people, it's not the best indicator of success. So anyway, that's why we do what we do. And we like to think of ourselves somewhat as a bridge. If we're thinking about this, a career pathway, right? It can start from a whole lot of different places. I bet if we polled the audience here, have some people coming, maybe right from high school, or some people are coming right after whatever schooling. Maybe they took some college classes. Some people are transitioning careers, right? You started down one path and realized I want to get into tech, or maybe you started doing something kind of part-time, it grew into a full-time, and you realize like, this isn't where I want to be. This isn't where I see myself. So there's no right or wrong reason as to why you would want to come here, right? But we just we try to design the program so that it enables people to be able to get into an apprenticeship role through one of our partners. So our role itself is what we call it. It's called an apprenticeship sponsor. Essentially, we work with employers. So we partner with organizations that, like the slide I just showed, that that are agree with the fact that, hey, hiring is not working. There's a better way to do it, and we think apprenticeship is one of those ways. And so we partner with those organizations to understand where they have roles that are available in different locations across, in their organizations, what those roles are, and then kind of work backwards to design an accelerated curriculum. We call it a pre-employment boot camp, where those that don't have necessarily that exact experience can come through the boot camp, can get that, learn those technical skills that are just essential for being day one ready, with the understanding that after you gain that employment and start getting hands-on over the next 12 months, which is the duration of the apprenticeship, over that next 12 months, as you're getting more experience on the job, you're working on gaining additional certifications, you're developing more skills, both technical and leadership. So at the end of it, the partner companies are, now they have employees that, not only are they, maybe where they would have been with a year's of experience, but they're, essentially years beyond because of what the apprenticeship can kind of offer. So that's more expanded into the why. As you start to get into more of the technical aspects of what the apprenticeship is, I start with qualifications, right? And I know we have some people who were joining us internationally, which is amazing. One thing I do want to call out is that because this is a work-based learning program, we do need to have eligibility to work here in the U.S. So outside of that, there's no, there are I should say not no restraints, there are few criteria. One, we do mandate at least a high school diploma or equivalent. And the other thing, though, is we do unfortunately have a cap on education. So if you've already attained your bachelor's degree, you would not be eligible for the apprenticeship, for not all of, but the majority of our apprenticeship programs. We do have some of our programs will require a basic kind of fundamental knowledge in some foundational work, like maybe HTML, CSS, Python, JavaScript, things like that. And if you don't have it, that's okay. We within our admissions process, we try to provide resources so that on your own time, you can go and take Code Academy classes or finish something to be able to demonstrate that, hey, you do know what you need to be successful in this boot camp that would then lead up to the apprenticeship program. So here's kind of a timeline. I mentioned the boot camps typically between 2 and 3 months, then the apprenticeship 12 months thereafter. And then the employment, it's an apprenticeship role, but you're a full-time employee at the partner companies. It's not a contract basis. You're W-2, you get a salary, you enjoy the job benefits that employer offers. So, and then the idea is you stay there for a very long time. I mean, if you finished your career, that would be amazing there, but you're not under a contract. So you're free to continue to grow there, or if there are other opportunities at that point, you'd be free to pursue those as well. And then just continuing learning and education. So it's something that whether you're doing it formally or informally, right? It's part of what we all kind of the mantra of apprenticeship in general, especially here at New. So expectations. I don't say this to scare anyone, but it's difficult, right? Depending on your technical knowledge coming in, if you don't have much, it will be challenging for sure. If you do have a solid base, it won't be as difficult. But still, the idea is, we want to stretch ourselves. We want to stretch all of our learners so that you come out of this as the best as possible. So the completion rate, like I said, it's a little bit, it's actually higher than this now, but it's difficult. So I say that if you're coming into this, make space in your life right? Kind of know that while the program itself is 15 to 20 hours or so per week total, it's a lot mentally. They call it kind of full-time mentally. So that would be just advice that's been shared down for learners who are joining into the program. Here's another kind of timeline or more of a journey map. I've talked about a couple of these things already, but one piece that I really want to call out is that the boot camp program, everything that we provide is at no cost to our learners, and that's funded through other sources, which I can get into more later. But there's not a guarantee of employment. So if you complete the boot camp, then we have partner or multiple partner companies. We'll put you up for interviews as best as we can, right, where there are matches, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to get hired. So it is something where we see, I think typically we see between 65 and 75% of those that interview are selected. But it's definitely not a guarantee. So another thing just to be cognizant of. But for those that are selected and begin their roles is when they start the apprenticeship program. I talked about a couple of these things already, but one other cool thing that I think is unique to new apprenticeship is that as you're going through and doing all of this, earning certifications, we have an articulation agreement with an organization, a university called Southern New Hampshire University, where you can earn credits through those certifications that can be applied towards earning a bachelor's degree in IT or a similar field. So really trying to remove any not only barriers for entry, but barriers for future growth and advancement. And at some point you might run into, if not right away, you might look at someone who says, you really need to have this level of education to keep moving forward. So we're trying to remove that and make that a lot easier as well. Sorry, jumping a few slides here. Okay, so the boot camp, this pre-employment training, I mentioned 8 to 12 weeks. I typically do this in the evening. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6:30 to 8:30 Eastern is typically when we have our sessions. And these are, you're part of a cohort of 15 or so people. You'd meet like this over Zoom, but it would be led by an instructor, a facilitator, a coach, right, where there would be throughout the week, you've got different projects or readings or videos that you're watching so that everyone can come to session really at the same level, at caught up to speed. And then it's focused more around interactive learning as much as possible, because that's where we feel really is the most value. Because of that, though, if you're not able to, there's no asynchronous way to complete this. If you're not able to attend those sessions, at this point, we don't have a way for you to continue to be able to make it through the boot camp. So the apprenticeship, as I mentioned, it's 12 months. It is a similar experience. It scales back as far as the time necessary per week, in recognition that you're also going to be working that full-time job in the field. But it's a pretty similar format. And then coaching, something that I mentioned a little bit, but it's a big part of what we do. We provide, performance coaches and leadership coaches. We work really with not only with our individual apprentices, but their managers in these organizations to really understand what success looks like, understand what the expectations are for not only just meeting the requirements but exceeding it. So it's a cool thing as a former coach here. It's really powerful not only for our apprentices, but to be able to really lay out on paper or in a really tangible way of what the manager expects as new employees are coming in. It's not done very often, so it's a pretty powerful, I think, pretty powerful tool. So that that kind of gets to the end of it. It's the next steps. We have an application online, depending on where you are at technically. There may be that project that I mentioned to be able to earn those baseline technical skills. And then if you do that, then we'll get you scheduled for an interview as soon as possible. We do have, because our programs are being offered based on where and when our employers need people, we really do our best to try to make sure that you're matched, that we can give you these opportunities as timely as possible. There are times when, things are, when we meet the number of hires, right, there are, we've started to have to utilize wait lists more often for specific programs or maybe specific locations. So if you've applied recently or you've been in the process and you got that communication, we really are going to try to be able to try to connect and move you forward as soon as possible. But we don't think that it's fair for anyone to start you down a path of training if at the end of it there's not going to be an available apprenticeship role that you can interview for and start. So that's kind of our mentality is, right, we're doing our best to bring more roles and understand where and when, but that's where the entire admissions process, right, is it can be very quick, or it might be a little bit elongated depending on where those are. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And I see that we've been answering questions for on there. So I appreciate it, new apprenticeship team. I'm going to start in the Q&A and start working my way through those. And yeah, but keep answering those or keep sending in those questions. So we have a question about yeah, we have a question about bachelor's degrees, right? And specifically around career changers. I know I mentioned that being a group that we support. Yeah, and I think the question is basically a lot of people who are switching careers may already have a bachelor's degree. And, if that's something that we're trying to help serve, then, how can we find that opportunity? And I don't have a great answer for it, to be perfectly honest. I think what we're doing on our end is really trying to identify additional partners that don't have requirements for having or not having a bachelor's degree. Some of the employers for the apprenticeship role, the way it works, or the way that their kind of system is set up, is that there are people that have a bachelor's degree are automatically put into a higher job level, in which isn't part of the apprenticeship program. So there's some, kind of technical reasons that don't really, that we need to kind of follow. But I will say that, like I said, we are searching for more employers to join us so that we can offer opportunities that accept bachelor's degrees. So I hope that helped answer the question. Sorry, I wish I had a better one. All right, let's see. Someone said, great webinar. Thank you. What resources? Okay, so I have a question around what resources we should be looking for to prepare for this program. So it is a little bit, it will depend on what the program is, for sure. So, of I guess probably the easiest way to be able to understand what on the technical side will be most helpful to prepare for. I'm going to send over a website or a page on our website right now that I think does a really good job. And I would point to the section where you see the syllabus. Okay, I just sent it in chat. I would point you to the section where it has the syllabus for the boot camp, because that goes into a little bit more detail around what's going to be covered. And so if you really want to get ahead right on the technical side, depending on what program you're interested in, that would be a really good place to start. So I had a question around the qualifications with an associate degree. So all of our programs currently, if you have an associate degree, anything from the baseline of a high school diploma up until, theoretically 1 credit short of a bachelor's degree, anything in there, you would qualify for any of our programs. So associate degrees, especially, I think there's a really compelling pathway, because you're halfway or more already to a bachelor's degree. So by completing one of the apprenticeship programs, you could get up to almost a year's worth of credits just for completing the apprenticeship program. So then you're almost at that point, a year or two away from completing a bachelor's after that, with then a couple of years experience. So yeah, but associate degree is totally fine. Yes, a question around an interview that was scheduled and got canceled. Um, I don't have a blanket statement, because it depends again on our employers. We're looking to say, they're forecasting where they need people and when. Typically, what I will say is that we get this information, we typically get it quarterly. So as we're kind of going through and finalizing what that looks like for the next quarter right now. So what we'll try to do is after we get those kind of demand plans, send out an update if you are on a wait list, and kind of say like, hey, best case scenario, great news. There's no opportunities for your program in this location. If there's not, though, we'll try to at least say like, unfortunately, we don't have any for this upcoming quarter. There's always the hope that it could come in the following quarter, but it's really a challenge for us. I wish I could say confidently that it's going to be only X amount of time, but again, because we're so we're tying all of our opportunities to actual open roles for employers. Was really kind of where we have to follow. So I hope that, and I probably didn't answer, wasn't the answer you're looking for, but hopefully at least provides some context as to why. A question about the admissions process, or the admissions project specifically. So you should get an email after you apply. You should get an email response back that says, in order to move forward, here's what the project looks like. We also have a landing page that I wonder if, I don't know if Aaron, you'd be able to grab here and paste on, and just paste it in the chat here, because it kind of outlines for each of those occupations what those are. And, something that if you're interested in, maybe multiple programs, there's nothing stopping you from doing multiple admissions projects, right? And being able to say, well, okay, I'm now ready for an interview at IT, but data is really interesting to me too, right? And go through that project, because as we find these opportunities as they come up, we're going to be looking for people who match, and then we can say, great, like this opportunity came up, and now you qualify for more. So we'll try to send that out in chat here as soon as we can.
The apprenticeships page, Matt?
The project, the admissions projects page. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
Okay.
Okay, we've got a question about the the coursework, I think more specifically around the accessing the material. So essentially, after you you join the boot camp and become, we call them learners, right? That's the boot camp. Our operations team is going to get you emails to get you set up. We utilize Canvas for holding all the modules, all the learning modules, and submitting information there. We also utilize Slack as a communication channel in addition to email, but where you'd be with your cohort to be able to share and share information. So there should be, for those that are in the program already and looking to access that material, you should be set up with Canvas. I'll have to confirm the timeline with our operations team. But I believe they try to get that set up as soon as possible because one thing I know, there's an orientation module within Canvas that kind of goes through a tour of everything in more detail than I'm providing. Here's Canvas, here's how we use X, Y, and Z. Here's the the support team and things like that. So I would say if you're in there already and you don't have access to Canvas yet, if you're already in the program, you don't have access to Canvas, you can email our support team. I'll put this in the chat as well, the support, and they will be able to provide you a timeline of when you'll be able to get access to your Canvas material. I have a question around the AWS practitioner certification, eligible for boot camp. I'm not sure what the SA is. Solutions architect. Sorry, I just remember it. So if you have a practitioner, AWS practitioner certification, you're eligible for the boot camp for the solutions architect. Okay, I think I understand the question. I think in general, the question was if you already have I think the certification or a certification that's going to be covered in boot camp, is there an opportunity to be eligible for a different certification in boot camp? If that was the intention of the question there, unfortunately, the answer is no, because the training is really developed for that specific certification or pathway. What I would say though is if you already have that certification, as you're going through the boot camp, you'd be able to do more advanced things, right? I mean, I think working with your instructors or your program managers or coaches to say like, hey, I've kind of gone through and done this stuff already, but is there something else that I should be working towards? I think that's where especially the instructors who are experts in this field would be able to help, or someone on our team too, if you're looking for, certainly if you're not being challenged in the boot camp, well, raise your hand and we will find a way to challenge. Oh, great question. Great question about international 3-year bachelor's degrees. Yes. So when you would be eligible. It's a great call out. The U.S. bachelor's degrees is what the kind of criteria is. So if you've attained a 3-year bachelor's degree internationally, you would be eligible for the program, be eligible to apply. I have a question around accessing the coursework. I think I answered that already, hopefully through Canvas. And so getting that access through Canvas would be where you're accessing the coursework. I have a question around the role for the apprenticeship. If the role is not currently available after the boot camp, wait for an available opening. So the answer, if you completed boot camp and then the role that was available isn't available anymore, can you like, if that happens, reach out to me. If you want to reach out to me directly, we really try to prevent that, and we certainly want to work with our employers to understand what that timing could be and when. I think it is hopefully not happening much, but I think the best would be to handle it on a case by case basis. So if you want to reach out to me, I think that would probably be the best. That would be the best course of action, and then I can internally kind of understand and elevate it as needed. Great question around the ServiceNow program. So what does the program lean towards, admin or development? Yes. So I think the initially, as I mentioned earlier, right, the apprenticeship goal is first about getting that kind of day one ready to be able to start and be productive, but then it's really more about the growth over that course of that 12 months. And so I think when you start to enter the ServiceNow program, it's going to be a lot around learning that platform, being able to jump in and provide value, be able to navigate through, all the different things, which would be, I don't know if it's necessarily administrative, but it's not going to be heavy focus in on the custom development. That said, that's the program is designed to build up to that. And so when we talk about having those programming skills necessary, even to start the boot camp, you're going to start even towards the end of boot camp, do a little bit more, but over the course of the apprenticeship, you're building up and then being able to develop into roles that are creating custom apps or more on the developer track within ServiceNow. So really great question there, but it's definitely a progression throughout the apprenticeship. Follow-up question, I think, around the pathways for the limited pathways for bachelor's degree holders. I think that the question was, is it reasonable to move forward and apply? I think I would say yes. I think we try to make the initial application process, at least fairly concise. And the reason I would say yes is because we are, as mentioned, looking for more opportunities and some that will enable people with bachelor's degrees to be able to participate in the program. And so what we do is, at least if you apply, we'll have that information on file so that if something comes up in your area, in your interest level, we can go back and reach out and say, hey, you applied for this. At that point, you had a bachelor's degree and we weren't offering anything. However, we now have an opportunity. So I would think I would recommend yes, if you're willing to you kind of go in under the expectations. There's probably not something right now, but in the future there might be. Okay. There's a question around some of the coding technologies the program goes over. I'm not the best person to answer that. I don't have a deep technical programming background. I can speak kind of at a high level, for our, at least the primary language within our data program, I think is Python. And then within the ServiceNow program, my understanding is JavaScript is one where you can do the primary language for doing some of the customizations within ServiceNow, but the more of like the from scratch or deeper program app development, I think, is within HTML and CSS. I could be wrong on that one. Again, this is not my background, but I believe that is they're called I think it's called portals within ServiceNow. So hopefully that at least gets you on the right track. It might be worth a follow-up Google though. Question: if you have experience already, can you accelerate the boot camp process? Typically, no. The One of the reasons is that a lot of this training that we go through is so customized to what the employer needs that there's not a high likelihood that you have all that experience. I mean, there's definitely a chance. And again, if you're in the boot camp and you're not being challenged and you look at the material and like, hey, I'm well advanced for that, what you can do is talk to your program manager. Kind of let them know, because certainly we want to get people into jobs as quickly as possible. That's like everything, that's how this whole model operates. But I do want to set the expectation that it is rare to happen. So, but yeah, definitely, like I said, raise your hand as you're in there and you feel like you're not being challenged, you're not developing. Then we will do everything we can to try to accelerate that. Question around what the ideal candidate for the IT or just kind of general in any of these apprenticeships. So demonstrating interest, yes. The ways you can do that are so varied. Certainly, if there's any coursework that you've taken, some college work around it, that's one way, but it's not the only way. YouTube, right? Like you go on YouTube and you've watched these videos, or Coursera, any of the sort of online ubiquitous training programs that you can access for free. There's, even some people we've talked to are like, I've just been always the go-to tech person in my family. And so, I started just building this website from scratch because I don't know, I was bored on a Sunday and was interested about it, right? This is not like one right or wrong way, but certainly like having demonstrated that interest in some way is really helpful, and is something that, to be honest, like is going to be required. Having that passion, having that like that drive is going to be really required for getting in like a fast-paced learning environment. It's going to be difficult. So having like, yeah, yes, I'm super interested in this. Like I'm going to push through when it's difficult. That'll serve you well in not only the transition, but in your, career in general. So a question around, I think this is around timing again. So the question was, interview scheduled. Is it safe to assume there's a position available to work towards getting? I would say that after it's scheduled, it can depend on the timing. What we try to do, if there is, like, if we're coming up to, we're not, like, if we're coming up towards like the end, or we know that we don't have much availability, or if we see that, people have an interview scheduled a few weeks out, but we have an opportunity to start something earlier, keep an eye out for an email from us to say, hey, notice you have this scheduled out in a few weeks, but we want to provide you an opportunity to schedule it earlier, this week or next week, so that you can be able to get in. We really try again to make sure that we manage this all correctly, but I would say that if your interview is scheduled, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Certainly after during the interview process or after it, we would let you know that, like, hey, unfortunately we're on our wait list right now. But certainly if you have something scheduled and you want to just check in with our team as it's coming up before, is like, hey, I'm scheduled for next week, just want to confirm that there's availability for the program, please reach out to us. I think it's a great question. I had a question around the how competitive the program is. I think my experiences through coaching at least, is that it is not it's not competitive at all. It's actually collaborative. I think, where I've seen learners and apprentices kind of come together is seeing they have, different strengths in different technologies or other different areas. And it is in the most successful groups that I've seen are the ones that are the closest, the tightest, that they jump in and help each other out. Because one other thing, like to note that while there are some, there are limited, we have available roles that we're working towards. We have had employees that say, like, look, if there are more qualified people, like to some degree, we're gonna accept people. We want to find the best people and get them in. So I've yet to see something where those that have gone through and really just done really well in the interviews, where they're going to be saying no to people who they otherwise would have wanted to. So I hope that answers your question, but I think it's really collaborative. It's not, it's definitely not designed to be like a competitive environment. One last question I see in the Q&A around accessing Slack channels. I think that would be something if you could email your program manager or on the support team. They can kind of let you know what all channels you should be in. Okay, I see. I think we are. We're okay. I see a couple more questions coming in. This is great. Do you get paid in boot camp? That's a great question. You do not. Unfortunately, this is an unpaid boot camp. One of the reasons is the work that you're doing isn't like client deliverables work, right? This is work that you're doing towards your upskilling, gaining those, certifications, or working on portfolio projects. And so, there's no compensation for completing the boot camp. There's just no, again, our model is that those any of the costs associated are covered through applicable grants or through contributions through employers. Question about how many people have graduated in the program. That's a great question. I think we probably active apprentices right now. So those that have active apprentices, there's probably 150 or so right now. Those that have graduated the apprenticeship program, probably another close to 150. And then have actually graduated boot camp, completed boot camp. I don't know, maybe 400 or 500. I'm kind of just riffing here, but that would be my best guess. Program manager. How do you find your program manager? That's a great question. There should be probably in one of the emails you received from the operations. It would likely be listed there. If not, though, I would recommend just emailing the support team and asking so that they can get you guys in touch if you aren't already. I'm looking at chat here, and I'm not sure. I think we've been trying to monitor the Q&A portion of it. So, but I did see one question here that just came in around any books or any materials that are necessary for the program. No, those are provided as well. So there's not any costs. We do have a policy for a certifications is as far as like the cost for certifications. And so I believe as part of the apprenticeship, all the first takes are 100%. They're 100% free or paid for by through the apprenticeship, and then subsequent retakes, I think we contribute $50 for. So in some of those, I think like a Tableau, for example, retake is $50, in which case it would, cover the second retake. But others where it's more expensive, it would just contribute towards that $50 towards it, and then for any subsequent, retakes would be 100% out of pocket. Another question here I see around the work hours. So they are they're Monday through Friday, kind of Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. In general, right? Like each of the employers might be a little bit different, but to my knowledge, we haven't had any where the hours have been, any weekend hours, or we've had any night shifts. If anything, the hours might be adjusted depending geographically. If you're in the West Coast, maybe your hours would be a little bit, 9 to 6 or something. But I haven't seen anything. Outside of those standard hours. But again, it would ultimately be with your employer who would kind of set those standard work hours. Okay, great question. It looks like was maybe being answered. Jordan might be answering it around after you complete boot camp and you don't get a job. I will kind of elaborate on that because there's a couple different. We try to. I mean, the short answer is that we really try to be able to support you to get a job again, because that's the best. That's the ideal outcome for everyone. One of the things, though, that is we have a couple ways to do that, I guess. So one would be if we have other employers or interviews where you match up, then we definitely want to get you put up for those. But the most common way is that we do typically we'll have the opportunity to like re-interview after doing some additional training. And so it's not for everyone, but the majority of our roles, if you complete boot camp, you interview, you don't get the job, then we do kind of like a retraining, and then you're able to interview typically like a month later. So I will say that in order to have that ability to re-interview, there are certain requirements that need to be met through the boot camp, mostly like, you attended sessions, you submitted everything that was required. So as long as you kind of meet that, I would say like meet that criteria, then you have the ability to re-interview. But yeah, so those are primarily the two ways. If we don't have any other employers or any other opportunities at that point, then there's not really anything else we do other than, potentially when we do have more opportunities, we'll let you know. That has happened. So it's not impossible, but it's not the most likely because, again, it just kind of depends on when those opportunities come up. One question around the schedule of the boot camp. So it's typically Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30 Eastern. There may be some alterations in that, but that is that's the general, I guess the most common days and times for the boot camp. Ask the question around quizzes and tests that need to be completed during the live training. I don't know. I don't know 100%. To my knowledge, there's not any tests or quizzes that are taken during the actual live sessions, but there are definitely like test preps and quizzes and then like, what you would probably call homework that is done throughout the weeks that would be submitted through the learning module. So I don't think it's done in the live environment, but definitely incorporated in the materials that are put together for the trainings. There is not a age limit, so no age limit on the for the apprenticeship, and there's not necessarily a test to enter the boot camp. It is more of the any of the admissions projects if you need that, and then really the interview process. That would be the kind of quote test. Another question around the next cohort. And I think I had a question earlier around different cohort start dates. So it varies by program, but I want to say the next IT program is July 11th. The next data program, I think, is July 18th. The programs following those two are early and mid-August. And then AWS right now is currently on hold. There's a chance that would be August, would be the next launch there. But if not August, then we anticipate that being in about September to start the next, in probably mid to late September. In digital marketing, our upcoming launch is July 11th. However, I believe we are at capacity for that. So we have not yet set the date for the cohort afterwards. Question around, can you use the boot camp to apply to other companies in case you get hired? Absolutely. I would say, putting the everything you've learned, right? You have a portfolio that you developed and projects, right? You'd be going through as part of the boot camp prep is actually job coaching as well. So refining your resume and putting together a cover letter and just really practicing on mock interviewing. So yeah, please leverage, if you're not able to get with one of our partners, leverage everything you did here to get a job, because, again, that's, even if it's not with one of our partner companies, there's a giant need for really talented people to start working jobs in tech, and we can't solve the whole thing. So we want to do whatever we can to help, I see some more in chat here, and I know we're getting close to the end. I know I have a hard stop in a few more minutes, so let me try to get through as many as I can here in the next couple of minutes. On the application, see my city listed. Okay, so there's a question around how you would know what program is available for your city. The best place to go, I think, for that is on the link that I sent out earlier, the sort of apprenticeships page. What we try to do is keep that page updated, and on that you can see available locations. So that is probably the best place to look for the program. What are the locations that are available? We'll be updating that shortly based on what locations will be available for the next quarter. But that is probably going to be the best place to go. All right, scrolling through to see if I can get a couple more of these questions. A question for the cohort around July 11th. So we have two that are launching there, the IT and the digital marketing one. The IT we have availability for. The digital marketing, I believe, is limited. There might be I think it depends on the locations now, as some of our locations are definitely filled up. So I think if you have a specific question, around, is it filled for you as an individual, if you could just email us, and then that way we confirm and let you know. A question around companies, and I think this is probably the last one I'll be able to answer before I have to hop off. But there are a variety of companies, but the biggest one and the most likely hiring, if you're joining the program, is a company called Infosys, Infosys. They are a massive global tech consulting firm that just does some really cool things. I mean, they serve thousands of clients globally. And so that is going to be the most likely. The cool thing is that they're just an organization that is so devoted to training and continual learning. A lot of the things that they have set up, even within the process of onboarding to their organization, they have things that resources you can take advantage of, just starting to go through and continue to upskill as you start to get assigned to a team. Essentially, you kind of join, and then there are managers or teams that are looking to add people to join, and so they kind of look through the individuals who are new to say, like, oh, I think this person would be a great fit for my team, and so that's kind of how it works. So it's pretty cool, but there's some other smaller companies that either smaller companies or companies that have kind of a few different roles, but for the majority, the Infosys would be the one, especially on the IT side, data for AWS right now, where there's the primary company. Well, we're at time. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This is really great. It's really awesome questions. We again appreciate your interest and hope we did. Hope you're leaving more informed. If there's anything we could do, Aaron put in there the email that you can send us to email, or the link to apply. So we hope to talk to you all soon. Thanks again.